Okay, good evening. Good evening, everybody. So this will be a short video on a topic that is actually a very important feature of the symbolic language. This and this one is the magnification arc. Magnification and what's the opposite of magnification? Decrease arc. So this was discussed many times in the past, and there are actually many examples in many videos with paintings and also sculptures, and also the electrolysis apparatus. I mean, it's very common. So what I'll do now is I'll repeat I'll shortly repeat things that that I've said more than a year ago, and also kind of give you some kind of examples from existing videos, screenshots from existing videos with artwork from this channel, but there is a scoop because there is actually some kind of a new something that I thought about just now, maybe 30 minutes ago or half, an hour ago. For the first time, I thought about it right now, and when I thought about it, it became obvious to me that it's true. So it's kind of funny and exciting, and also it's also kind of anything is related to the natural, to what I call the natural symbolic language of the neurons, or the natural manifestation of the symbolic language of the neurons. It's always exciting to learn things. As I said, it's one of the most exciting aspects of all my inquiries, and unfortunately I didn't have enough time to think about it and to inquire into these kind of things. Because this is it's amazing thing, because when you discover things that are related to this kind of topic, I mean, it's like a religious moment. Suddenly everything become obvious, obvious truths become but things that you didn't think about it before, suddenly become obvious, but kind of it's a great joy, and kind of great kind of and also it kind of connects you to nature, because I mean, you suddenly see how things that they were always around you, are actually part of a language that that can be used to communicate with entities that that speak this language. So it's really it's always exciting. So I had this moment maybe just 30 or 40 or 50 minutes ago. I'll not to put you in kind of hanging too much, and I'll just say what very shortly. I understood that that the Milky Way is a magnification arc. And now that I understood it for the first time, it became now it's obvious to me, it's completely obvious to me. And I will explain why in a second. But this was the discovery. I never thought about it before. And as I said, it was an open question to me. I've said so many times, even in the last couple of days, that excuse me, I'm eating. I'm eating my dinner. It was always a question to me, what other objects in the night sky, other than the solar system, because have kind of effect with regards to the symbolic language of the neurons. Because I've said so many times that at some point I understood that the solar system is viewed during the night sky, but also during the day. It's also important during the day, actually. But it's mostly visible during the night. But the things that are visible during the day, that are very rare, they actually also have meaning. And again, what's important is what you see, not what's there. This is in a work of art. The fact that the moon looks different during the day and during the night is very important, because during the day it's only white, which is like a comment, so it does not compile. And during the night it looks very different, so it compiles. which means that it's part of it's not a comment, it's part of, no, it's an effective part of the language. Even though, of course, it's the same moon. But the night sky is in the symbol, is the main, I would say, not the main, but I would say the overarching object of or sentence of the symbolic language, which means that it should be viewed as a work of art, or I would say symbolic structure, which is almost the same. To say something is artistic or symbolic is it's not always the same, but I mean it's very close, and in our situation it's almost the same. Okay, so just a second. At some point during my investigation into the symbolic language, I understood that each component of the symbolic language, or a set of components in the symbolic language, sometimes it's like a set of components, sometimes it's one component. It depends on lots of the definitions. It's like a vector in kind of like a linear space, which means that it's or in other words, less mathematical, it's an effect. It symbolizes an effect on real life, and this effect can be multiplied by a scalar, like again, to produce another vector which is also part of the language, again like in linear spaces. A scalar that can be either positive or negative, and the scalar is just a number, okay? Rational number, okay, for our purposes. No, I mean, for our purposes, a rational number, okay? Now I also understood something. Now these vectors, or I mean the abstract, the symbols that represent the vectors, generally they have some kind of like a mimetic aspect to it, okay? Some kind of mimetic aspect to it, which means that they mimic reality in some way. The easiest thing to, the easiest kind of mimesis is just, a photograph of the moon that, over the night sky, like, every child, on Earth will tell you this is the moon, okay? Because it looks like the moon. This is like the obvious kind of mimesis. That something looks like something else. But there are other types of mimesis. Like the whole theory of mimesis is a huge issue for the philosophy of humans. And it's also a huge issue in the symbolic language, because the neurons, and it becomes clear to me very clear. Very quickly, they also have several types of mimesis, yes, there is like the simple mimesis of that something looks like something, even though even this can be argumentative. Like you can ask, look by whom and from what angle and from You can challenge even this kind of simple mimesis, but this is let me just pause down for a second to say something. With regards to the Magnification Arc, there are many things that I cannot completely, I do not completely, I cannot completely, rigorously articulate, like in a mathematical sense. But this is true to many other aspects of the language, and it's not necessary to do it in order to use it, because it's like in any other. In this way, this language is more akin to natural languages than to formal languages. By the fact that you don't need to understand every kind, or to formulate like everything that you use in order to use it. Like most people, many people, maybe whatever is your native tongue, I'm sure that, I mean, all over the world, I mean, you know, kind of, maybe you kind of like, you know, you probably, I mean, at least once in your life, I mean, you had the kind of, you know, the experience of like speaking with someone that is like learning the tongue, like an immigrant to your country, and like, I mean, he asks you or she asks you some question like why is it something is like the way it is, like why do you say something the way that you said, and you just like, you can't explain it, and you couldn't explain to them because and maybe it's got like some kind of explanation, but you just, I mean, forgot it. Maybe you learn it like as a child in school, but I mean quickly, I mean, you know, just, I mean, forgot all about it. And maybe you'll have never actually learned like what's the actual rule, and maybe there is no rule or it's some kind of exception, but even if there is a rule, maybe you just forgot it. So it's like that with the symbolic language. You don't need, you know, to use the language, you don't need to articulate mathematically every part. So I just said because you need to understand that, I mean, what I convey in this video is, I think, very important from the practical perspective, but it's not necessarily to understand the mathematics about, you know, behind it, and I do not completely understand the mathematics behind it. So there are also kinds of mimesis. Like, what does it mean to mimic something? I've addressed this issue in the past with the question of like, how do you, like, what is this, like, how the neos, I mean, symbolize themselves. Like, this is a huge, very important question. One of the basics, you know, things that it's discussed a lot in many examples, like both in paintings and in sculptures, like in theory. Like, how do the neos conceptualize themselves? How do you show a neo in the symbolic language? And this is actually, this deserves, like, you know, a video of itself. Maybe I'll conduct it. I never actually create a monography out of it. Most of it, as I recently, you know, said, most of the things with regard to the symbolic language are scattered all along, you know, the not just this channel, but even, you know, previous channels, because it was, these things is related to my artwork and not just to the science work that is the topic of the major topic of this channel. So it's like already 3 years that I'm investigating this thing, and usually, I mean, I do not like do monographies, but like I've had this monography on the deaths of the symbolic language that I replay today, but usually I don't do monographies, and this is like the kind of video is like a monography on the Magnification Arc. But I mean, I just thought about it. I mean, maybe I should, like, you know, dedicate like a whole new video to like a specific video to the issue of how the neos represent themselves in the language. Even though this is whatever I want to say, it's predicated on many other things that are already, you can find in this channel. But I would just say that, I mean, there is no one answer, because because there is no one. There are several ways to do it, and this depends on the context. And they don't have one, like, you know, symbolic articulation of themselves. They have several kind of like symbols of themselves, and this depends on what you want, like what's the vector here, like what you want to achieve. Also, there's a question like, how do you symbolize a portal? Okay, so the portals are the neos, but philosophically, or in the abstract way, they're not. It's not exactly the same, and they understand it. I can show you, I mean, actually a representation of gates, like the neos themselves created, drawn on slides. This is, you can find it in this channel. Believe it or not, I mean, it's not science fiction. They've done that. They understand that it's not the same, like, even though the actual, you know, the implementation of the portal are themselves, but it's not the same. They understand that it's not the same thing. That, I mean, that the neo and the portal are not the same, even though in reality, the portal, the physical implementation of the portal is the neo, but it's also, I mean, can be viewed as a function of the neo, because they can do other stuff as well, and the function, like the mimetic symbol of the mimetic representation of the function is different than the mimetic representation of the object. Okay. Now let's get back to the arc issue. So at some point I understood that I mean, if the vector of effect, like the what I call the vector, which is like an object in the language, is supposed to be of, like I would say, the type of simple mimesis, which means that generally that it looks like something that you can watch with your eyes. Again, like the moon sample, or just like a bug, or a human, or an asteroid. All of these things can be watched by the eye. I mean, they have like, I mean, they have kind of like, they are things in reality that can be observed or be sensed. So when you create a symbol, there is a question of what's the of like how big is what you actually want to, like how big is the object that you refer to. Presumably for humans it doesn't really matter, because okay, humans, I mean, they roughly they come at the same size, but Neros arrive at tremendous amount of sizes, tremendous. And asteroids, I mean, they exist in tremendous amount of sizes. And this is true to many other things, even to life forms. Many life forms, and this is not something that is kind of, it's not something that, this is not a characteristic of Earth's life forms, actually. To the best of my knowledge, it's not true to any Earth's life form, but maybe I'm mistaken. But there are many other life forms that are not Earth's life forms that have tremendous, like, scale of size. Like they can be very, very small or very, very big. I don't know of any Earth's life form that is like that. But they exist. How do I know? Because we've seen it, because we created them, and we've seen them go like to huge sizes, like, and from the microscopic to the huge to the several centimeters. So I mean, this is true by evidence. And many other things, rivers. I mean, even trees. I mean, sometimes, I mean, trees are a life form. So maybe not in the animal kingdom, but in the kind of in the plant kingdom of Earth, you can find actually, or the mushroom kingdom, you can actually find things that are, I mean, scale tremendously. Maybe, but not in the animal kingdom. But the mushroom kingdom and the plant, they're also considered to be living. So maybe you can actually find like such examples of varying sizes in Earth as well. Anyway, there is the question. So there is the question of like, okay, what is like the size of the thing that you want to, like, to refer to. Like maybe, okay, maybe the mimetic object, I mean, can signify without any question, like, what is the type of thing that you want to signify, but what's the size? What I mean, how big it should be. Now, this is also true, not just, I mean, to like simple mimesis, like symbols of the symbols mimesis kind, but also to vectors of that, I mean, signify an effect. For example, you want to, but let's leave it for a second. I mean, let's leave it just for a moment. Let's just, I mean, so let's consider the third example, that, I mean, that you want to understand, I mean, how big is the object that, I mean, you refer to. So there is kind of like a default in that, I mean, like there is the kind of a default answer, but you can change the default using the magnification and or the decrease arc. So what's the default? So unlike, I mean, to me it wasn't exactly intuitive, because generally, I mean, for me, I mean, I don't know what you think, I mean, how do you conceive it, but I mean, according to my conceptualization was that, I mean, usually symbols are much smaller than the actual object that they symbolize. That was my conceptualization. That by default, I mean, you expect that, no, the actual thing that you symbol to be much bigger than the symbol. like in size. But in the neural language, it's completely the opposite. The default is that the symbol is tremendously bigger than the object, tremendously bigger than the object. But how much? How much bigger? So this is something that I don't have like an answer to. It's one of the open questions with regards to this, to Magnification Arc and the symbolic language. As I said, I don't have answers to all the questions. Certainly not to kind of mathematical concept like that, like this one. I don't know how much. It can be 1,000. I mean, I would say it's minimal. I mean, the minimal value that I would like is 1,000. Like 1,000 is like the minimal value, but it can be million. Like the proportion, between like the symbol and the actual object can be like million to one. That the symbol is million times bigger than the object. So what is the actual number? So as I said, I don't know. I suspect that this has something to do with, first of all, it should be said that you never use just one symbol. You always use more than one symbol, like as the vector. Like when I say vector, I mean, again, either like, the vector in language is either kind of like the existence of something or the change of something. In any way, it's in effect in the language. I call it vector, following, from the mathematical perspective, as opposed to scalar, which is kind of like a number that decides how big or how effective would be the object or the change that you want to produce. So I suspect there is something to do the different kind of symbols that you use, because it's almost always at least two and sometimes more than that. And also it's probably something to do with like the context. But I just don't know. The answer is that I just don't know. These are just threads or clues to the answer, but I just don't know. In any way, what you should know is that the symbol is by default much larger than the object. So if I use, like if I use just a second, I had many of these, but okay, let's assume that I want to use this clay thing to represent a snake, okay? Or maybe that clay thing to represent a snake, okay? Or the white one over there. They're about the same size. So the actual snake would be at least 1,000 times smaller, if not 1,000,000 times smaller. Okay? And if I want to summon an asteroid to hit the Earth, and I use, let's say, something that, this is not a common shape of an asteroid. I had many kind of like bolts like that, that can be used to demonstrate asteroids. I had like hundreds of these, but not here. Anyway, let's just for the example, let's say that this is our asteroid, okay, and it's coming to Earth. And maybe I also accompany that with kind of like a painting that is with asteroids that looks about about this size, So the actual asteroid that will be summoned by the Neros to hit the Earth will probably be something between the size of like a pea, like you know, the green pea, and a grain of sand, which is probably not what you want. Probably not what you want. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. So there's a question. So okay, so can we? So how do you use the scala? But you said that you can. So you said, but you said okay, great, but maybe you can increase the size. Like I mean, using, but because you said that every vector can be amplified by a scalar, which can be either negative or positive, which means that you can, in simple words, you can increase like the size of the object that you refer to by another kind of symbol that will manipulate the meaning of the existing symbol. So yeah, so at some point I inquired into that, and at some point I understood that yes, there is such a symbol, and I've called it the Magnification Arc. Now you can find Magnification Arc in many of my videos, especially my short videos, and also just a second, okay? I'll give you examples, but just a second. Just a moment. Just a second. So this is my channel. These are the short videos. This repeats a lot, like the Magnification Arc. Okay, so it's too quickly. Just a second. Let's search for another one. It passed too quickly. This is a Magnification Arc. This is Magnification Arc. Now, as you see, mostly in my art, when I use Magnification Arc, there are all sorts of dots. I get this effect from, I mean, it's not an endorsement of, like, you know, I don't get money from them, but I use the Amsterdam heavy pearl medium. Heavy pearl medium for this effect. They don't pay me money. Just that's what I use. It's called Amsterdam. Amsterdam is the brand and the manufacturer, and it's called heavy pearl medium to get this effect of the dots, like the 3D effect of the dots that you see in it. Now another kind of like another example, which is more. There is another example here. This is a magnification arc. And there is another magnification arc. There is one magnification arc for the entire, that encompasses the entire solar system, and another magnification arc just for the 4 rocky stars. And you see that I used as well here, like the pearl medium. So you can, but you can also say, but I mean, this can be interpreted as like just, asteroid belts, because we know that there is actually a big asteroid belt surrounding the solar system, and there is another much smaller one that surrounds the 4 rocky planets. So here is the thing for you. This is not a coincidence. Yes. So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's both. It's both part of the symbolic language and part of this, the solar system. But a much more important magnification arc in our solar, the night sky, is, of course, the Milky Way. The Milky Way is an example of a magnification arc which magnifies the moon. And this is important in order to open the gate, because the moon is a symbol of opening the gates, the solar gates. I didn't start to think about it because you rarely see actually the Milky Way, even though because of the light pollution. But if there is no light pollution, it's very obvious that it looks just like a magnification arc, including the pearls of the Amsterdam medium. The pearls are built in the magnification arc, which is great. So, and you can see it a lot in many of my paintings and many sculptures. So there is still a question of so what is a decrease arc? So decrease arc is just opposite color scheme. Instead of of bright over dark, it should be dark over bright, dark over light. This is decrease arc, and you can watch it actually as well in all sorts of in all sorts of videos in this channel. So now there is a question of, yes, but by how much? So but we need to quantify it. So there are 2 aspects to this question: the theoretical one and the practical one. The practical one is that it mostly doesn't matter. Mostly it doesn't matter how much. The theory behind it, the theoretical answer is that this is this is determined by the pearls, by how many pearls are there on the arc, and this is, and each one is multiplication, but I'm not sure by how much. Maybe by 2, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. Everything related to mathematics is still a big mystery to me, and I didn't investigate it a lot because it's not that important. It's not at least not now in this while I'm still in the initial stages of this understanding the language. But I've kind of what I do understand is that a very crude representation that might not be correct always, or is that the magnification is 2 to the power of the number of pearls. Now you can use black pearls if you want, if you want for if you want let's say you want to kind of, I'm not sure the coefficient, I'm not sure the base is 2. But let's assume it's 2. I'm not sure it's 2. And maybe the base changes, according to context. But let's say the base is 2, and you want to multiply by 2 to the power of x divided by y. I mean, the exponent is x divided by y. So x is the number of the y, of the bright pearls, and y is the number of the black pearls. Okay? This is kind of like a crude estimation of how you quantify the magnification. So now, why doesn't really matter? I mean, it matters a lot. I mean, sometimes in some situations it matters a lot, but usually it doesn't matter. Why? Because in any case there will be other constraints to the actual effect, because the effect will be gradual in any case. They don't do anything like, as I said many times, they don't have any non-continuous functions in their language. So in any case, it will be a gradual effect. So, I mean, you can ask, I mean, please create like a snake that is the size, the size of of the universe, okay? What will actually happen is that they will start to create like a snake, and they will make it bigger and bigger, but there will be some kind of other constraint to its size that, will be manifested very quickly. And I mean, they are not stupid robots, you understand it. I mean, they are very smart, so they have their own kind of system of constraints that they work with regards to energy, to matter, to how many are they. I mean, how much workers they have, and also to the context of what they are doing. So they will themselves limit what you do. Like, you can ask, okay, increase something by billion times, but they will not actually do it. They will increase it by kind of something that makes sense according to the situation. This will and this is even more true when you do not want to signify an object but an effect. So in that case, it's even more kind of the constraints that are kind of built in by the situation are even more manifested. Like, you want to ask to do something. I mean, for example, you can ask kill all life forms, or kill a billion, or kill a trillion, microbes inside in a container. So what will actually happen is that they will just start to kill the microbes. I mean, until they are done. I mean, and maybe they will stop because of no more, energy, or I don't know, other consideration. Maybe they will stop when they are all dead, and maybe there is only trillion. So after a trillion, they will stop. Okay, so it doesn't matter that you ask for trillion because they are inside the container, and they can do whatever they can do inside the container. Okay, so in most actual situation or basic situation, you don't really need to give them the correct mathematical formula, because you don't really care. Yes, I mean, there are questions so what about the asteroids? Do we really care? I mean, how big it is? So admittedly with the asteroids, yeah, I mean, the question is cool, and it was actually a practical question, not just a theoretical question. And so I used as many kind of pearls that I could to squeeze into the painting and the sculpture, and just I trusted God that will kind of choose the correct side. Sometimes I just leave things to God, because I trust God, to do the mathematics, better than I am. But yeah, I mean, yes, it's a question. It's a question. Yes. Because if it's 1 kilometer asteroid is very effective, but 100 kilometers is also very effective. I mean, the question between, Mad Max Furiosa and Apollo 13. What do you want? Anyway, because of my lack of knowledge in the mathematical, aspect of the situation, I kind of pray to God that will do the math for me, at least in that particular, case. So that will be all for now. Hopefully you can use this kind of knowledge, to enhance whatever you already have done with the symbolic language. And yeah, and I need to know to myself that to hold like a monography on the question of like how to represent a Nero in the symbolic language of the Neros, which is an interesting question and not a trivial one.